And if you could take that for that purpose, then you're selling yourself short. Our ministers are here. Where is right, they're all here. Okay, thank you all very much. We have several issues to raise, and we have a full house today. I noticed there's a special occasion today. In full force, media is out in full force. Thank you very much. And this is our third postcard briefing, but it's our fourth week. Today marks 4 weeks since I was sworn in. Now, we had an issue before with the decision about the issuance of permanent passes for the use of the PBR and review of the process for matters related to cargo vessel operations on the sea bridge. We had proposals today for revocation of the appointment of members of several boards and the appointment of members of other boards. Some of those we have done thus far are WASA, EMBD, TSTT, NGC, MTS, and PSAEL. Boards approved, and we'll continue that process. Today, we also talked about approval for finalizing entry into force of several air services agreements, one with the Dominican Republic, one with Colombia, one with Rwanda. I believe one is also with respect to Brazil, and there will be one or two others. So several air services agreement, Cabinet approved today. We also talked about approving a national anti-money laundering, combating terrorism, financing, countering proliferation, financing policy and strategy. What had happened, we had been on the, well, I think they call it a red list or a black list, and we have now moved to a brown list, so we are improving in that regard. Some would have been efforts previous to us coming into office, and some others done within our time. We also dealt with some other matters. Audited financial statements not being filed by several state enterprises, which has resulted in other things happening at the company's registry, where many state enterprises have been removed. They did not file their audited financial statements. This is a requirement that is to be done annually. They have to file annual statements, and many have not filed them. The State Enterprise Performance Monitoring Manual, annual financial statements must be submitted 4 months after the end of the financial year to the line ministry. State enterprises have not been keeping their obligations when it came to filing these audited financial statements. We cannot continue to operate like an open bank vault, where government keeps dumping money into state enterprises that do not submit proper accounts, especially when some of these companies are getting hundreds of millions in taxpayer dollars to keep afloat. Some companies have not filed statements for multiple years. CPEP, Caribbean Airlines. I believe CPEP did not file for a five-year period, and they still received about $500 million. I also believe CAL has not filed since 2015. So their new board will soon call on the CEO to account. I am giving the management of all state enterprises fair warning that they have to get their houses in order and have their statements of accounts updated and filed when due. The workers and unions in these companies also have a responsibility to press management to follow the correct procedure, reporting procedures, as when these companies fail, it is the workers, the employees who suffer the most. Many privately registered companies have been struck off the registry because they have not filed. State enterprises take it for granted that no matter what they do or do not, government will keep bailing them out because of the fear of political fallout. That cannot continue. Government wants to work with the management of all these companies to make sure that they keep running and that they are profitable. Some continue to ignore their responsibilities for providing proper accounts, and they may well end up not receiving assistance from government in the future. We are willing to take the political bumps because it's billions just going unaccounted for year after year after year. Or we want a proper accounts and transparency so proper decisions can be made. No proper planning of future policy direction can be accurately taken by any organization if we don't have up-to-date accounts yearly. Municipal corporations are also guilty of not providing proper financial statements for auditing. Every regional corporation has a number of years outstanding for audit. Many culprits, some being UNC control corporations and PNM control corporations. The biggest amongst them are Kuva Tabaki Talparo, 15 years. Diego Martin, 15 years. Tunapuna, 12 years. Point 14, 10 years. No accounts. Princestown Corporation has been an exception. They only have 1 year outstanding. So it shows that these accounts can be submitted when there is a will so to do. Mr. MP Saddam was supposed to join us, but I guess he may join us after. So perhaps you can get MP Saddam Barry to join us, please. Yes, thank you. With respect to the companies being struck off, there are many, many companies struck off, and we are considering giving an amnesty to allow the companies to comply with their legal requirements. With respect to Tobago, I had a very successful meeting with Chief Secretary Farley Augustine. He brought a list of issues to be sorted. There are many we can work on towards resolving that may not cost taxpayer dollars, and there's some what you call low-hanging fruit that we can deal with in a short-term period. We, government committed to Chief Secretary Farley that whenever major Tobago issues are being discussed at Cabinet, the Chief Secretary will be invited to attend to have his input before decisions are taken. The Minister in the Office of the Attorney General, Devish Maharaj, I have tasked him with handling all legislative matters to be worked out with the THE. So Minister in the Ministry of the AG as well as Minister of Justice, Mr. Maharaj, will be tasked with handling all legislative matters relating to Tobago. As you know, we've gone back and forth with regard to Tobago self-autonomy. There have been bills brought to this Parliament, just lapsed, went by the wayside. So whilst we prepare for another bill to come, in consultation, of course, with Tobago, there are many other smaller issues, legislative issues that we can address in the short term. And as I say, Minister Devish Maharaj will be tasked with that job. Crime, we were getting up to date on the state of affairs of the various arms of security in our country. I've been reading reports going back from 2022 to present time to get a full idea of what was done in the last term, what was not done. National security is just too big for one person to handle. Just the sheer amount of work, administrative and otherwise, is too much for any one person. That is why I disaggregated all the items that fell on the, what was then national security into 3 ministries, as you well know: Justice, Legal Affairs, and of course, Homeland Security, to deal with crime. I am also considering placing the Minister of Defense, Wayne Sturge, as a minister also in the office, in the Ministry of Homeland Security, to give that added assistance, because it is a big, big ministry and is responsible for a big chunk of governance in our country. So we had first split it into 3 ministries, and these multiple ministries overlap. So you will see the schedule being updated from time to time. One of the major problems is that ministries tend to operate in silos, and that tends to slow operations. Whereas now we have clusters of ministries that overlap from time to time, and working in tandem can give us better delivery and better service. An example is the Ministry of Public Admin and AI. It has a lot of overlap with Homeland Security regarding cybersecurity, operational computer software, and so on, so they will have to work in tandem. Justice has an overlap also with these two ministries. That's why I have ministries operating in clusters and ministers within ministries to help break the silos operating to get greater responsiveness and greater efficiency. Regarding stand your ground legislation and legal firearms, we have been looking at models across the world, and in particular, right next door to us in Florida, is a model that we can adopt here, and we have the committee that has been put in place to help us come up with the legislative provisions for putting stand your ground legislation. The other one is with legal firearms. I see some people are saying we should not go that route of giving people who apply legal firearms. We campaigned on that. We got a special majority vote. That was one of the things we promised the electorate, and we will deliver. We will deliver. For those of you who are against that, to give legal firearms to law-abiding citizens, of course, with the checks and the balances, the answer is simple: do not apply. If you're against getting a firearm or giving a firearm, you have the option. It is your choice. Do not apply. But we will proceed with stand your ground legislation. We will proceed with giving legal firearms in, as I say, within a framework, because those were matters we promised the electorate. And those were some of the policy positions we took, which gave us the special majority in the Parliament. As I say, everyone has an opinion. I again remind everyone, this is still a democracy, and as long as I'm here, it will remain a democracy. So everyone is entitled to voice their opinion in favor or not in favor. That is their democratic right. Today, I am voicing mine. Many victims of home invasion have written to me about their experiences. Most victims want to defend their families, but did not have the equal means to do so. In the first place, no one should be invading your home. The government, the judiciary, and police will ensure to work to put an end to home invasions. It is our duty. You know, the first job of any government is the protection of its citizens. We have failed miserably for almost a decade, and therefore we take certain measures. It is because we believe these will improve the safety and security of our citizens. It will take time, that is true. I see people are asking me about how do you grade the government's performance in 1 month? I can give you many answers to that, and I hope you will come up with your own answers. Things do take time. It's not an excuse, it is a reality, it is a fact. In the interim, we are just trying to give people the means to defend themselves, to stand their ground, and for a few minutes sometimes it will take until help arrives from the TTPS or otherwise. So if you're against stand your ground, then you don't have to stand your ground. It's a democracy. If you're against legal firearms, don't apply for a legal firearm. This is so straightforward. We are still a democracy. But for those of you who want to defend yourselves and your families, you should be given the right as well to do so. I do not understand, really. In fact, I don't think there's anybody who will not want to defend themselves and their families in their own homes or elsewhere. I ask you to just envisage and imagine some criminal beating the life out of your husband or your wife, raping your daughter. What would you do? What would you do? You will have to stand your ground and defend your family. You see, I could ask Minister Alexander at the moment to describe what happens in a home invasion to women and children. So I will call on you in a while, and he can give us, some of you may know, some of you may have been victims, but there are just too many victims of home invasions. I tell you today, after we pass these laws and implement them in the coming months, you will have the right to defend your home and your family. Criminals have shown us that no mercy. They have shown us no mercy for the last, well, I say decade and more. Thousands of us have been murdered, our families, friends, missing, terrorized, extorted, and beaten. If criminals invade your homes, do not back down, show absolutely no mercy, and attack with full force, within the law of Trinidad and Tobago. That is a law. I am fully committed, we are all fully committed to making sure that that law is put in place. They have no right to rob you or molest your loved ones. Don't be guilt-tripped by some who do not want to defend themselves. Criminals have sent thousands of your loved ones to the morgue in the last decade and more. I turn now to the Judiciary. We plan to meet with the Chief Justice soon, along with our Minister of Justice. The Judiciary definitely needs assistance, and they've been crying out for that assistance for some time. Every year we see issues with accounting, physical infrastructure, staffing, scheduling, and pace of judgments and cases. We plan to work with them to assist as best as possible. We do have a concern with the pace of judgments, as some judges take years to deliver. We want to get more information from the CJ to ascertain if it's a staffing issue or procedural issue before making further comments on the pace of delivery of judgments. We have serious concern with inequality in sentences we are seeing. I saw recently a man got 4 years in prison for having an illegal handgun to protect his family, and a couple of years ago, a master in court fined 2 persons about $20,000 for possessing a high-powered rifle after they were caught in a ganja field with about $3 million worth of ganja marijuana. Inequality in sentencing. It is something our Minister of Justice will be applying his mind to. So something is very wrong with the inconsistent sentences being handed down. Up to today, no one can tell us the status of the stepdaughter of a former minister, but every day cases involving average citizens are being plastered across the media. I turn now to education. The Minister of Education is working towards the laptops for our Form 1 students. Again, there's some concern about the laptops. Again, we are in a democracy, and it is very simple. If you do not want a laptop, you don't have to take it. But we will be rolling out that program to give the laptops to our students entering Form 1. Indeed, I'll call upon those persons who have concerns to send in to the Minister of Education that you do not want a laptop because you're concerned about the laptop, possible use or abuse of the laptop. You have a right. You don't have to take it when we go to schools to give them to the children. So I intend to issue instructions next week that if your child wrote the SEA and is heading to Form 1 in September, and you do not want your child to get a laptop because you are against the policy, please inform the principal at your primary school so the information can be forwarded to the Ministry of Education. We don't want to purchase laptops that may not be used. I turn now to works. Requests have also been made for information from the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure. The Minister is here with us. It's a shame that billions of dollars, over $10 million, have been spent over the last 9 years, and we can hardly find a good road in the country. Flooding remains rampant. I've asked the Minister of Works and Infrastructure to request and get audited the test results for roadworks done in Manzanilla, the Komoto Highway extension, the Point 14 highway from Otaheite to Labre, the highway widening in Chaguanas, and the new O'Mara Road. We need to get test results there, Minister, because those roads are failing or have failed. I've also requested an update on the status of personnel and projects in the Highways Division, Pure Unit, NIDCO, and Drainage Divisions. Particular attention has to be paid to Pure and NIDCO and the Drainage Divisions, which have all spent billions, and yet shamefully the road and drainage infrastructure remains in a horrendous state in most places. We have also requested information on bridge funds. You may have forgotten about Bridgman's and the Cabo Star, which is owned by Bridgman's and is still operating despite all the scandal and all the facts relating to that company. Minister will give us a report so that we can reveal. Minister may tell you that in July, is it, Minister, the Cabo Star will go into dry docking, so we have discussed and agreed to alternative arrangements to be made in that period. It's about a 2-week period in the month of June. But in the meantime, we need more information. We've asked repeatedly in the last 9 years about this Cabo Star, the ownership, and how that contract came about. I think even the then Prime Minister Rowley, had openly declared, if my memory is correct, when he had said something is not right with respect to what happened at that time. Performance of government after 1 month, as I say, that is for the public to decide. There is always room for improvement. Whatever comes our way, we will handle it. I don't want to come here every week and speak about doom and gloom and invoke fear into people. Citizens have their own daily issues to deal with, so the last thing is, I don't want to stress anybody. I do not wish to stress anyone. We were elected to deal with problems. We are not perfect, I tell you that all the time, but we will try and we will do our best that we can in all of the circumstances. I have already shared with you the paucity or the emptying of the Treasury, and more will be said about that. We are preparing for a midterm review in June. Remind me of the date, please. Honourable, the 15th for the Standing Finance, 16th of June for Standing Finance Committee, and 18th for the budget debate, well, the mid-year review debate. That is a very important exercise because we have to find money, we have to shift money from one head to another head so that we can continue running the government until the end of the fiscal year. We will come back, of course, as usual, September, October for budget 2026. But in the interim, we are in a very, very crucial period to continue the funding of the government agencies and departments. And so it's an exercise that's taking place. It's taking a lot of time. As a new administration, it will take a little longer than if it were a continuing admin, but we are doing that job. So today I tell you, we asked for the job. We signed up for the job, as I say. We signed up for the job. It makes no sense to just come here and blame people. However, anyone in my government or anyone being paid with taxpayer dollars will be open to criticism or praise, including myself. We welcome both. We welcome both, which will give us incentive to continue to do the best that we can. I see commentaries and groups. I think this is somebody's line that I've copied, which have said many commentators and groups had laryngitis for the last 9 years. They have now found their voice. They've been cured. While I have no issue with legitimate criticism, we will call out some of the hypocrisy of certain groups, business groups, some media, not all, commentators and other civil society persons who sat dormant for the last almost 10 years, a decade. Dormant, have now found their voices. We will give credit to the Trinidad Express. We will give credit to TV6. We will give credit to Trinidad Newsday, who are the only other voices besides the UNC who called out the last government in defense of citizens. I see TTT has finally gotten a voice. They actually come to press briefings and ask questions. I welcome it. We welcome that. We welcome them. They are part of the media in our country. And I see they also figured out how to unblock comments on their social media. Congratulations, TTT, you have now unblocked. I think comments were blocked for a long time. Anybody here from TTT, by the way? Welcome to the pressers. Welcome. We take your questions and thank you for unblocking. Let people talk. What they say, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt us. So I say again, we are elected on a mandate based on our promises, and we intend to fulfill those promises. The Life Fund, Children's Life Fund, expansion of that act to review rejected applicants. I shared this with you before. We're moving forward with that bill, which is already drafted. We have already drafted the repeal of the TTRA Act. We have the establishment of a solar PV power plant in Suriname by TT's National Energy Agency. They're working on that. We have a feasibility assessment of cross-border subsea pipeline from TNT to Suriname. We're working on that project through NGC. We are looking to address financial deficits. We scrapped the demerit points system. Again, I see some persons are not too happy with that, but again, we campaigned on that. And we got the mandate, so we will proceed with the mandate we were given. And if you have evidence to tell me the demerit system helped in road safety, I'll welcome it. But thus far, we have found no evidence that the demerit system reduced the road traffic incidents or persons on the road, the accidents and so on. We have found no evidence. In fact, the evidence thus far is to the contrary. So I look forward, if you have any, I will welcome it. But we will proceed because I have a firm view and we are governed by the rule of law. And that tells us you must not have a double jeopardy. That is to say, first, you are sued. You're found guilty in a courthouse and you have to pay whatever you have to pay. And then on top of that, now you come with the point system, which ends up in many cases to take away a person's license, and those are persons that need their license in order to earn a livelihood. So it's a double jeopardy, and the law is frowns upon and is totally against double jeopardy. Yes, we'll find other ways to improve road safety for citizens, but we are not of the view that that system of demerits is palatable in law. In fact, it is offensive, in my respectful view, to the whole system of justice. Yes, Minister? Yes. So we are looking at identifying spaces for cath labs in the hospital system. We're reviewing firearm license laws. We are beginning to assess the reopening of the Petroleum refinery. We mentioned laptops already. We are dealing with resources to fight crime. We're directing resources being used for state-funded security towards the fight against crime. Cost cuts, assessing government officials supplied with state-funded housing. Not to be a bacchanalist here today, but you'll be surprised at some of the names that have been receiving free government housing. Cost cuts, yes, I mentioned state-supplied, state-funded housing. To look for cutting costs. Infrastructure works, Minister will tell us a bit more about road improvements in areas such as Papuri Road. We have already told you about the price cap that we will place on vehicles for government officials, determine a maximum price on vehicles that parliamentarians can purchase using their tax breaks. We will put a cap. You can't come and buy $2 million, $3 million, $4 million and seeking tax cuts. We do agree that there will be some tax cuts, but we place a cap. So don't tell me you need a Porsche to drive around in and you want a tax break on a Porsche to do a minister's work. Not necessary at all. Stand your ground, home invasion laws are being considered. We have a committee established to consider approaches to combat, as I said, home invasions. We have proposed energy sector projects with Guyana, Suriname, and Grenada. We are looking to renegotiate with landlords to reduce rental bills. I spoke of this last week. So these are some of the things you're asking, what have we done? These are some of the things we've done. And some of the things we propose, landlords to reduce rental bills. Bus route passes, we talked about that, a review of those letter passes we shared with you in a previous postcard. As we speak, Minister of Energy had spoken to you on the last postcard for discussions with officials in the United States, in Washington, about energy and other issues. The UWI campus will be visited by various teams to assess where it's at and what needs to be done and what will be the cost, okay? Because we can't run in there and just spend money. So we came up with the decision we need to send in a team to assess what's there at the moment and what needs to be done to bring that campus back to standard, fit for occupation and fit for education. Fire service, Minister told us last week about absorbing the auxiliary fire officers into the fire service at little or no cost, because they are already understaffed, the fire service, understaffed, so to bring in these 280 persons. And the Minister is looking at regularizing the SRPs. We're still doing an assessment to see what cost it will be. I know the SRPs have been asking for this, and so we are considering how best to do that. Contracted security services, government is working on getting the contracts to account for the $500 million in this expenditure to save money. WASA, Cabinet has rescinded the previous PNM admin cabinet decision on WASA. We shared with you some of the things we've done. Homeland Security and Justice and the Attorney General have given us an update on the possibility of resuming hangings, so we await their report. Property tax to be repealed. Issues surrounding CLICO will be sorted. Last week I mentioned to you a report on forex distribution and leakages over the past decade will be conducted, and we will make it public. That work is ongoing. Repairs to 248 schools and educational facilities under the Ministry of Education have been approved to take place during the summer vacation, July, August. We have Ministry of Works and Infrastructure. I told you for desilting of 250 kilometers of channels throughout the country, that has been approved. So we talked about the boards. I want to tell all boards who are refusing to resign, and the CEOs and management of state enterprises who are busy signing off contracts and hiring friends and family, I send them and tell them every contract they have entered into will be sent straight to the Anti-Corruption Investigation Bureau. So every person and every company involved will be investigated. This is the most shameless type of behavior I have ever seen exhibited during a change of government. It is overt, it is bold-faced, and trying to eat a food down to the wire and after you pass the finish line. It doesn't work like that. So these are my comments, and before I take your questions, my ministers will now advise you of their comments, please. Thank you. Which one is first, please? Which one of you will first?
You want to let me get you on. You want your thing there?
What?
I'm going to bring up the mic. Mic is good. Good evening, all. After numerous complaints from police officers and some members of the public as to having a number of stations throughout Trinidad and Tobago occupied by the courts of Trinidad and Tobago, that has been causing a level of both inconvenience and a level of stress to both law enforcement and members of the public. As the Minister of Homeland Affairs, we are looking at how best to treat with it. So I had to liaise with my colleague, Minister Maraj, Minister of Justice, and as we speak, we are looking into it as to how best to treat with it. I'm responsible for providing all the resources available for law enforcement to have them up and running. And this came in at a time when persons are occupying, the court is now occupying places of importance in the station. Take, for instance, the identification room, the interview room, and areas like that, which is very critical for investigations by police officers. So as we speak to my colleague, we are treating it at this time. I want the law enforcement officers to understand that we are working on it, and we hope to get a result at the shortest possible time. All right, Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, members of the media, for being here. Indeed, the Minister of Homeland Security reached out to me concerning this troubling issue. It seems that there are two areas of concern, that when suspects are first held in the police station, that is the time the police stations are used to grant bail, connection with the magistrates, etc. But I heard from him that there may be other instances where certain trials may be conducted from those police stations. That yet is unconfirmed, but if that is so, we find that a bit troubling, so we'll have to look into it. Aligned also with this issue is the question of construction and refurbishment of courtrooms. For the justice system to operate efficiently, as you well know, physical infrastructure and resources must be allocated for the proper functioning of the judiciary. You heard from the Honourable Prime Minister that we intend to meet with the Chief Justice within short order to discuss a number of issues. We have received an interim report from the Judiciary identifying over 10 to 12 projects. It could be a little more. We are currently perusing same, showing the different stages of court refurbishment and court construction. Most of it, if not all, are behind schedule, and they are going to be looked at critically to deal with. So on two fronts, if it is that there's no space in the courthouses, we'll have to find out from the Judiciary, is there space in the courthouses for these trials and or hearings to take place, to move it out of the police station to allow police to operate more efficiently, to have access to their room, their space, confidentiality, and all the rest that goes with law enforcement and police station. And secondly, for the proper delivery of justice with regard to physical infrastructure, that is on the top of the agenda to deal with. There are a lot more that we can talk about here, but I have many colleagues that are waiting in the wings, and I'm sure you would want to hear from them. So thank you, and we'll address any questions thereafter. Much obliged.
A pleasant good evening again to members of the media and citizens of our beloved country. I want to share with you that since I assumed office, I've been receiving several messages about the delay in grant approvals, one of those being the senior citizens pension. This evening, I want to share with you that the Ministry of the People, Social Development and Family Services, we are moving to address a matter of serious national concern, which is one that affects thousands of our senior citizens who have been made to wait unduly for their rightful access to the senior citizens pension. I want to also share with you that as of now, approximately 2,292 applications are stalled due to delays in the mandatory verification process by the National Insurance Board. And this situation has placed already vulnerable individuals into further financial hardship, and this is simply unacceptable. The delay really stems from an existing memorandum of agreement between our ministry and the NIB to function as intended. The agreement was meant to enable a shared portal for secure and timely access to benefit information. Unfortunately, I want to share with you today that the current inefficiencies have only deepened the frustration of our elderly citizens. I want to also be clear that us as the government, we are not standing idly by. We are taking swift and decisive action. I want to share with you that I have formally requested an urgent meeting with the Minister, the Honourable Minister of Finance, and his technical team at NIB to address this unacceptable backlog. And additionally, Another 1,438 applications remain unresolved due to a separate agreement with the Immigration Division. For this reason, I have also extended an invitation to the Minister of Homeland Security and his team to participate in a joint intervention. I have sent letters to both ministers yesterday morning. We intend to meet on Wednesday of next week to come up with a plan as soon as possible. I want to also inform you that these delays, when it comes to the senior citizens pension from NIB and immigration, it has resulted in some applicants waiting up to 2 years plus to know their fate about their senior citizens pension. So let me share with the citizens on behalf of the government and the Prime Minister that we will continue to be proactive and people-centered. We are working to ensure that we come up with a plan as soon as possible so that our applicants for senior citizens pension can breathe a sigh of relief. In the coming weeks, as we meet, we will let you know more in terms of how we intend to roll out our action plan to ease the minds of our senior citizens. So at this point, I want to thank you for listening, thank the citizens for listening, and allow my other colleagues to share with you some updates.
I know many of the reporters here by name, and I know over the years they would have interviewed several persons who would have experienced a home invasion. Officer, is there a light there? Just click the light off. Let me show you something. Let's take the light off for a minute. All right? Let's imagine there was no light here, and you lie down on your bed comfortable at night. Your family among you, your children, as the case may be, the elderly, and somebody, you hear, BRAM! And next thing you know, your doors kick in. And people, you're scrambling out and so, who's that, because you're answering. And then somebody roots you off the top of your bed, sometimes by your hair, by your legs. Say, lie down on the ground. Where the money? Where's the jewelry? And they're asking questions. The woman will be screaming, many a time screaming. And then sometimes they look for the youngest one, or maybe the oldest one, and to take her away from everybody else. And you hear screaming. They tie you up sometimes, you hear screaming, and you could do nothing. And you hear your either your mother, your wife, or your daughter's going, "No, go on, don't do me that. Please don't do me that. Now, please don't do me that." And you hear, "Whoop, shut up." Kick in the head. Where the money? And then sometimes you hear a moment of silence. And you're wondering, is that the end of the person who just took upstairs? And then a short time after, they might come back downstairs because they have time on their hand to play all over the home. Because that home no longer belongs to you. They have invaded your privacy. Yeah? And the kick and the cuff continues until they find something. Sometimes they get nothing, but it's enough to abuse you, to sexually assault your family. And then they walk away, leaving you sometimes bloody, leaving your family dead. They walk out, they jump in a vehicle, and they're gone. Sometimes all 8 of them. The only response that you had probably was the ability to bawl if your neighbors hear you. It's time like this, when we implement that home invasion policy and that stand your ground, you might be able to see them long before, and the result should be different. I encourage all of you here standing here tonight to remember that. Take that into consideration. Study your family. Whenever you oppose things, study the consequences. Study what happens when persons enter your home uninvited and leave members of your family dead. Thank you.
Okay, we open the questions now. Thank you. You should have been a dramatist in your... Thank you, Minister, but really it brings it home. It brings it home. It brings it home in your home. So questions from you all now, please, if any.
Is it on? Yeah. Hi, Prime Minister Ryan Hamilton Davis, Trinidad Newsday. I want to go directly to the laptop situation. It's kind of unfortunate that people don't see the need for it, but there were other programs such as the school supply grant and the book grants and so on. Are these programs also under the consideration of this government to continue
Sure.
or to be enhanced?
Anything to do with education is top priority with us. I know we had introduced several grants, even the books and so on, the book textbook rentals. Those programs are, Ms. Hamilton, under consideration, yes.
Just want to move real quick to Minister Mohit and the challenges that were brought up. If she's willing to respond to some of the challenges with the pension grants and so
It's
on.
hard to get up, so come on up.
All right. I just wanted to find out exactly
Go ahead.
what was causing the delays. Is it an administrative? Are there administrative issues? Are there staffing issues? What are actually leading to these 2-year and 2-year plus delays? And I've been to NIS and I've seen people 2 years, 4 years sometimes. Right. So what is it administrative, and how do we solve that problem? Is it more staffing? Is it a better policy? And finally, if there's going to be an overarching policy for a time limit for processing these things.
What I can share with you is the requests go from Ministry of Social Development to NIB and Immigration based on a memorandum of understanding, as I said before. So the meeting next week will really explain everything to us, and I'll share further with you. But what I can share with you, it's an electronic system where the requests are placed by the Ministry of Social Development to these two entities, and it's just a waiting process. So I cannot speak to why NIB is not responding or immigration is not responding. Maybe it's because of their workload. All right, this is one of the things that was discussed when we met on this. So next week, Wednesday, we'll really know what's happening, and based on that, we'll decide whether we'll revert to the old system of the walk into the offices. Yes?
Any other questions for Minister Mohit? Are you okay? All right. So we can move on, please.
Prime Minister, good evening. Akash Samru, Guardian Media. I noticed you may have inadvertently left us out when you did your list of media houses that kept the last administration to account, but that's all right. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for that. That's okay, thank
Yeah, I
you.
was starting to wonder if maybe I was too nice in the past.
Maybe. It's always good to be nice. Thank you.
Speaking of education, in light of US President Donald Trump recently giving an order for all embassies to temporarily halt the applications for student visas, yesterday the Trinidad Youth Council suggested that maybe now it's a really good time to look at expanding GATE once more. I know you spoke about GATE on the campaign trail. Is that something you all are looking at?
Yeah, we will look, but on the Trump issue, it is something our foreign affairs persons are looking at. They're a sovereign nation, and all sovereign nations are entitled to put whatever restrictions they want to or not want to, but we will look into it. With respect to the gate, again, at this point in time, expanding the gate much further will be difficult. Again, I talk about midterm review and finding funding, but certainly in our last incarnation, we had opened the gate wide. We had really opened it, not just for academic studies, but for technical and what you call those skills, vocational, thank you for the word, vocational training. So yes, we will continue to see as far as we can push that gate open and the wider we can. As I said, with education is very, very close to us. And we will be committed to helping as many as we can.
So after the media review, you may have a better understanding or a better vision of what could be done. That's what I'm asking.
No, but that seems to imply that we don't have a vision now. And our vision is, as far as it will allow us, the resources will allow us, we'll continue to open the gate as much as we can.
All right, and thank you for telling us when the mid-year budget review would be. In light of that, how soon do you think, or when do you anticipate that negotiations will begin, especially with the PSA, given the promise of that 10% increase?
As soon as we can. I can't
Be
give you a
bit more
date.
specific, or?
No, I won't give you a date because tomorrow you tell me I said the 10th and today is the 11th. So I will tell you as soon as we can. It is at the top of our burner. It is a high priority item. As soon as we can, we will begin.
With respect to self-governance for Tobago and autonomy, when do you anticipate that a bill will be brought to Parliament?
Based on my discussions with Chief Secretary Farley, that may not be until the new parliamentary term, which is coming down into after the budget, September, October. That will not be forthcoming, but there are some, as I said, some smaller items within the various schedules that we can tweak now to allow some self-governance to take place, so they'll have more autonomy than they have at present. With respect to a larger bill, it will take us a bit longer because the consultation exercise we'll take all the old bills, we'll look at them, we'll get a consultant team, but we will still have to reach back with a final version. So I'm not looking until the next parliamentary term.
Is there anything you can share
September,
with
October.
us in terms of some of the smaller things that you can accomplish?
Some had to do in the schedule with definitions of certain things. Some had to do with issues that Tobago now within their present schedule that they can do, that they were not allowed to do. The specifics right now slip me, but there are a lot of little items, sounds little, but it's big for the people of Tobago, that we can do without coming with this big omnibus bill at the end of this year. Okay, so I know there are areas with national security, and there was, Barry, can you remind, is Barry still here? He was part of the meeting because we had the leader of business in THA, she was with us.
Ms. Sackett?
Yes, Zorisha. And of course, Barry is a leader. So when he comes in, you can pick up the question.
Sure, and before I pass it on, I have a question for your Minister of Homeland Security.
Certainly.
Minister Alexander Anderson.
Minister, you're tall enough to stand. Thank you.
Right.
Are you okay?
Looking at the Gazette now, the management of prisons will fall under
Yeah.
your ministry.
Yeah.
Well, today the Prison Officers Association renewed its call for the relocation of the Port of Spain jail, and this follows a video of a man throwing what appears to be contraband over the wall. Is that something engaging your attention?
Of course. Of course. You see, I always said this before. Port of Spain is our city. And you're really not supposed to really have a jail in the city. And where it is located, a lot of schools around and all of these things. So it's something we need to take into consideration. And we need to look at it in a positive way to remove that eyesore from Upper Frederick
In
Street.
the heart of the city.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Barry, you had some of the specific items that we felt we could dealt with. Can you remember, please?
Sure, a few of them had to do
Come,
with the
come.
memorandums.
You could fit here.
Good afternoon, everyone. A few of the low-hanging fruit that both was discussed by the Chief Secretary and the Prime Minister had to do with the memorandum of understanding between several state ministries and the divisions within the THA. A lot of the existing legislation in terms of how the THA works in tandem with central government is left up to interpretation, and that has stymied the progress of a significant amount of work between divisions and agencies. For instance, education is one of those in terms of how you treat with teachers and their leave, their application for extended leave, etc., which impacts the division of education as well as the waiting time for a significant amount of number of teachers coming from Tobago. So clearing up the issue of interpretation of the existing legislation, where you have in some places minister as opposed to secretary, it removes a lot of the bureaucracy and actually gets a lot done a lot more efficiently. That's one area. This also.
Can I intervene on that? The law as it stands predates the Tobago House of Assembly Act. So that in all of that law that was prior to the THA Act, the word minister is mentioned. Many administrative functions, the minister will do this, the minister will do that. Minister here has mentioned leave for teachers. They have to get authority from the minister in Trinidad, which sometimes takes eons. That was one that we felt we would look at the definition of minister and where that can be transposed into someone there in the bureaucracy in the THA that will allow them faster time. So that was one of them for leave for teachers. Minister means Minister of Education in Trinidad. But they have a Department of Education and they have an officer in the THA for education. So that is like an omnibus bill that we can bring to Parliament. Every time minister is mentioned, if it is not in tandem with the present THA Act, we can amend the word minister now to bring it into the modern day post the THA Act. That is one. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, go ahead.
Another one, Prime Minister, you'd recall, has to do with the issue of legal affairs. In another incarnation, when we were there during the period 2010 to 2015, there was a great synergy between the THA and the central government as it relates to things like birth certificates, the registration of deaths and births, land titles, which remains an issue. We started that process when we were there between 2010 to 2015. The former administration left that to languish, and that is a serious concern to the people of Tobago, and it is something that we agreed with the Chief Secretary that we will work towards in the immediate future in terms of harmonizing that relationship, particularly with the areas in legal affairs, to bring about a greater degree of relief instead of Tobagonians having to come to Trinidad back and forth for simple things like births and deaths, documents from legal affairs, etc.
That is related to the Office of the Registrar General. When we were there, as MP has reminded us, we had created an RG's office in Tobago to prevent the back and forth and the time wasting and the money wasting. So we are considering again putting a deputy RG in Tobago for the benefit of the people of Tobago.
And the final area that I'll discuss, I know that there were a number of issues that we discussed, but some of them were short-term, medium-term, and long-term. So another one of the short-term measures particularly had to do with the instance of the Scarborough Secondary School. Prime Sir, you may
Slipping
want
into the sea.
Yes, you may want to discuss a bit of that.
Okay.
But that was a priority area for the Chief Sec and the THA.
Thank you very much, Minister. I trust that will keep you happy for now. Yes, for now. Anyone else, please?
Good evening, Prime Minister. Anais Elias, Tobago Channel 5. Of course, well, I went to Scarborough Secondary. It was in EC a long time ago, right? I wanted to ask you, of course, when are you coming to Tobago?
Come like Akash. Soon.
Soon.
Soon. We are a little busy at the moment with the midterm review. I'll be honest with you. That is consuming a lot of time. Something else consuming is board appointments, because without the boards, we have realized you cannot properly, effectively govern. A lot of decisions have to be made by boards. So it is really, really hectic, but as soon as we can, the midterm review is a priority now. We need the money. We have to find the money, and we have to allocate the money. So midterm review. So, and then the Parliament goes into recess thereafter. So.
One more question. Is there an established deadline for the operationalization of the new ANR Robinson International Airport?
We are assessing, again, that's another one that needs assessment. We discussed that with Chief Secretary. There were several issues outstanding there. I don't want to go back into that, but a lot of things that are not right with where the construction has reached. So we need an assessment report as to where it's at. But yes, we are committed to working with the THA to get that airport open, fully functional.
Afternoon, Prior Bihari, AZP News. In terms of laptops, why not have a means test, and who can afford it, let them afford it, rather than giving everyone carte blanche, to save some money?
Why not have what?
A means test, so someone
I
who
have
can
found
afford
it,
it would
yeah,
afford
I
it.
found the means test to be very subjective. And therefore, I believe that each child is entitled to that opportunity, unless the parents don't want it. They are entitled to an equal opportunity for, in this age, this is the age of the technology, this is the age of the computer. Our children have been left in the dump for 10 years, 9 years, when they killed that program. You know where we would have been today? Our children have been technicians, have been out there. I shared a story with you, People came up to me and said, listen, whatever name they call me, anti-cams, whatever it is. Look, they actually brought the laptop and showed me. We gave it to them in that time. I still have this laptop. Another one told me, look, I'm going to UE and I'm still using that laptop. So why not a means test? I find it to be exceedingly subjective in the responses. And do we leave it up to a subjective evaluator? Let's give everybody a chance. It's not going to cost us all the money in the bank.
In terms of FULs, there's a concern that you might make Trinidad and Tobago into a wild, wild west, given as many people possibly are FUL. What is your take on that?
In other states where we have people given legal firearms, is the wild, wild west. maybe back in the day. That is one of the concerns, of course. But again, we are saying we're going to put checks and balances. It will not be you walk in and I like your face and I give you a gun. It's not going to work like that. We will have a framework within which we'll have to do certain kinds of testing, psychological testing, assessments. Our minister here, Alexander, will tell us. Sorry, he stepped out, okay. And others will guide us. So it's not like just walk in and sign up and take a gun. It's not going to be like that. Okay? Anyone else?
Good evening. Good evening, Prime Minister. Jason John from TTT News. Hi, from TTT.
Welcome.
So I have just a few questions. I heard you would have made reference to state boards. Does the government currently have any plan to deal with, I guess, state boards who are refusing, or persons who are refusing to step down and possibly delaying the efficiency of those organizations?
Of course we have plans, which I will not share with you today. We are calling upon them to do the right thing, and should they fail so to do, we will do the right thing. They may be reappointed, it's not that, but that is the principle that when the government changes, you go. If you had done well, worked well, some could be reappointed. It's not like you're going to fire everybody. That's not my intention, to fire everybody. We need everyone. So, yes, we have a plan. And so far, many have complied, by the way. Initially, just a few had done it, and others were threatening they're not going anywhere and whatever. I think good sense is prevailing. And for the few who are holding on by their fingernails and toenails, we have a plan.
I would have heard you made reference to Tobago. You would have spoken about Chief Secretary Farley. Watson Duke from the PDP would have said that he would have sent a communication to you. That is what he would have said. And he would like to know, I'm assuming, based on what he would have said, his inclusion in the talks of the self-determination of Tobago. I'm not sure if you could confirm if you would have received that communication from Watson
Mr. Duke. If I were to be brutally honest,
Sure.
Watson Duke did send me congratulations and every good word. He also asked me for a job. I'll be honest, I did get it. And certainly we are considering it. Okay?
Just one final question. It was prompted from the laptop question where you would have made reference to the means test. Does the government have any plans of reassessing GATE and the means test that is applied to GATE?
Of assessing, I'm sorry, what?
The means test that is currently applied to the GATE program.
I have already mentioned that, and I still hold that view. That test was exceedingly subjective. It is very interesting how that means test, that was meant to be a means test, selected certain persons. That was not necessarily based on means. That would have been based on other kinds of criteria. So I stand my ground at this moment. At the moment, every child is entitled, unless the parents refuse to take it. That is where we are at this moment. Okay, thank you very much.
Anna Ramdas from the Express newspaper. Prime Minister, you said in the past 3 weeks you've shared so much information and you've brought different names and whatnot. Which state boards are holding on by their nails and whatnot? Can you name them?
I'll have to ask the ministers. I'll take the fifth on that one for the time being. Yeah, let's give them a chance, a further chance after my warning today. Yeah?
Yeah, during the election campaign, you said that your government will deal with illegal immigrants. What policy has been implemented or has border control been beefed up?
Well, within 4 weeks, I'll say none. But we are assessing that situation. I said it on a campaign trail, and we are looking at it. With respect to the Venezuelans who are here, I think mainly Venezuelans, you mean, as illegal immigrants. Ms. Ramdas? Are you referring? Yeah. I made a statement, and we will stick to that, which is if they are criminals, they will be deported. And with respect to others, as I say, assessment is taking place with regards to them. It's not like we're going to pick up everyone and send them back home. But criminals, definitely, I think...
With respect to neglecting and or failing to file returns and the listing of state companies, under the Companies Act, directors have a fiduciary responsibility to act in the best interest of the company and its shareholders. Now,
You're
there are
sounding like a
several-
lawyer, Sudat.
Notwithstanding any amnesty that the government may be considering at this time, will you also pursue criminal charges against directors for breach of these fiduciary responsibilities under the Companies Act?
Well, there are several options open at the moment. The option is to grant the amnesty and get them to comply. Let's give them a chance. Okay? Joel?
With regard to the 6 Mr. Prime Minister, you did mention with regard to the stand your ground legislation that the government could be looking at the Florida model or something along those lines.
Yes, I did say the Florida model.
For those who may not know what that entails or the details, could you give us a
I'll
sense?
send you a copy of their legislation. It'll be too much to say it here. You remember, you know where this, many of you may know, or some of you are too young, or maybe you didn't study history because now you could choose your subjects. But the stand your ground law came from my home is my castle. And then it morphed into various forms of how that took place. And the Florida model is one of the more modern ones, and a lot of similarities there. So if you wish, Minister of Justice, can you, where's my, can we find the Florida statute and share it? Is that okay, Joel?
That'd be very much appreciated.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
But not only Florida, we are looking at others, but so far that one seems appealing.
Thank you. And also with regard to the issue of the firearms, as you mentioned, legal ownership of firearms, would it be an update of the present system or something completely new? In other words, there was a complaint about the length of time persons were taking to get approvals and so on to meet certain criteria. And then once one gets a legal firearm, what would be the responsibility to ensure that they are properly owning those firearms?
Yeah. As I told you, we had set up a committee, and I'll await a report from that committee as to what form it may take. So I prefer to await the committee's report. Several ministers are on that committee. Yeah. Yes, Joel.
Just one other question. As you look at the mid-year review of the budget, what would you say would be the biggest challenge the government is facing in terms of just dealing with things, dealing with debt, but also trying to increase revenue at the same time?
Well, to increase revenue between now and next week, which is June, there is that is a big challenge, to increase revenue streams. The biggest challenge is really to find the money. So this is why we are trying to cut costs where we can. Some of the things you hear me talking about where we can cut costs. And of course we have other options. We've already floated, I think a treasury bill has already been floated, which will bring in some money revenue. And there's a few other measures that we can use to fill that hole that is there in the finances of the country. I know one right away is the treasury bill has already been advertised to bring in, and there will be others that you can renegotiate certain loans. So we do have some options, and we will get it done. It's going to take a little time, but we'll get it done in time for that midterm review. We have to. Okay, thank you.
Prime Minister, good afternoon.
Hello.
Darren Baho from the Newsday as well. I have a couple of questions. First off, your Minister of Homeland Security has been a police officer for quite a considerable time. You would have realized a court has pronounced on his testimony as being discredited in one case. What are your thoughts on that? And if there are other judgments which paint him in a positive light,
let us not speculate. You have one judgment. Do you have others?
No, just that one.
You're saying if.
Yeah.
So can we?
Just that one 3 times.
Yes, let's take that on. I'll ask the Minister of Justice to comment, please.
Yes, Darren. What will be your final question? The court pronounced on the matter that he was not discredited, as far as I'm aware. From a newspaper report, it seemed that there were 2 versions of an incident, and the court was questioning his version of the evidence. I wouldn't consider that in the face of the law to be a total discrediting, as you will be well aware. And it was about the question of a CSI scene, and the judge was asking when in 2002 there was no, I think, CSI, criminal scene investigation as it is.
Right. As you're on the podium, the Prime Minister spoke about disparity in sentencing. And you're a lawyer as well.
Oh, yes,
You know about judicial independence and the right of judges and magistrates to pass sentence based on the facts before them.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be for a government to legislate sentences on, but it should be arranged, and the judicial officer would take into account peculiar circumstances.
Yes, certainly, we agree with that. But I mean, where there's a great disparity, certainly the government needs to look at it and see if there's anything that can close the gap with it. I mean, if you have two similar situations and two very extreme sentences, I mean, we must take cognizance of that and see what can be done to close the gap. We are not for once suggesting that you're interfering with judicial independence. I don't think you can stretch it that far.
The issue of courts.
Yeah.
The Port of Spain Magistrates Court has been under refurbishment since 2020.
Yeah.
Have you got a status on the delivery of court buildings, especially the Port of Spain Court, which has the capacity for at least 15 courts?
As indicated, we just received a report, a status report, either early this week or late last week, which we are presently considering. Most of the projects are behind schedule. Some are 75% complete. Some have not even gotten off the ground. Some are brownfield projects and so on, which is repurposing. So the government needs to take a look at all of that, and especially in line with what the budgetary constraints may be, we'll have to address it as it comes along.
I want to go back to the Prime Minister, please.
Sure.
Sure.
Prime Minister, you spoke about state enterprises not complying with the audit financial commitments, and you spoke about not financing those who do not comply. Would that mean?
Okay.
Would that mean that those companies can close, and would that mean that there would be joblessness?
I'm not sure if you're repeating my words accurately, with the greatest of respect. I said we're doing an amnesty to allow them time within which to comply. Should they fail to comply, then we'll see what action we can take. I think what you just said is not reflective of what I said, unless you can say you have my words there.
The risk of not receiving assistance in the future.
That's right, but we said we are giving them an amnesty and let them comply. When we cross that bridge, we'll cross that bridge when that day comes. I believe they will comply. They are given time, extra time, so to do. Let's take best case scenario first before we go down to speculate. Well, if they do it, if this, if that. There's a famous story, if you go back in your West Indian reader, for the ones who are young like me, you will know the story of if. So I prefer not to speculate, sir, at this time. But I haven't seen you for a long time, by the way.
I have one final question for the Minister of Works.
Minister is reminding me it's not just state companies. There are a lot of very small companies as well who are in a similar predicament of not having complied.
Right. So you mentioned that you're doing an audit on the major roadways, including the new Elmina-Clark Highway and others. If your audit shows that there are major deficiencies, and what is the ministry's position? Are those contractors going to have to refund the state, be blacklisted by the state, repair the work that they did shoddy? Can you explain?
Yeah, I can, and Minister will help us. There is in law, there is a defects period within which the contractor, if the contractor has failed, that the contractor is obligated in law to remedy those defects, and if it's money, he'll have to pay the money. So there is a provision in the law. And most of those that were done later, that I mentioned, were recently done. We are still within the defects period.
My final question. At your first post-cabinet, you said that the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Public Admin were doing a review of the state of the economy and the finances that are available. It's been a month now. Is there an interim report? Have you been briefed?
I think, Darren, you were not here at a time when I spoke about the state of the economy. I talked about what the state of the economy was. I talked about a deficit of about 11 billion. I did report back in that limited time. I think the more important one that people are very interested in is the respective report about the forex situation. So that too is ongoing, okay? But the state of the economy, I think I shared that with you guys. Hey, $11 billion black hole.
Just this one just slipped my mind. Did the cabinet discuss the CL financial investigation?
No,
and
we have
its
not.
report?
We have not discussed it, but it is under consideration. I mentioned CL Financial today, in fact. But in terms of having a full open discussion, the answer is no. I've asked the PS in my ministry, OPM, for that report. Remember, there was a commission of inquiry. Coleman report. Yes, the Coleman report that was never laid in the Parliament. We had asked repeatedly for it to be laid in the Parliament. Was not laid, and the then Prime Minister told us he's given it to the Attorney General to consider before laying it. So I've requested to get a copy because I want to lay that report in Parliament, which will help us with the CL financial matters. So I am awaiting that report.
Prime Minister, I have a question for Minister Padarat. Minister, you said you were still... Oh.
Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, Minister, you said that you were still awaiting advice, legal advice, and from HR, from WASA, on how to proceed with what you all would have announced a couple of weeks ago. Have you gotten that advice?
There will now be a board that the Cabinet has appointed after today's sitting of the Cabinet. And once that board is in place, the advice that follows in terms of the appointment of the board, the information that is available to the board will now bring into effect that advice.
Can you reveal anyone on the board?
I will leave that up to the Honourable Prime Minister.
Have a piece of paper there. We'll give you the name of the chairman at this point in time.
Sure.
The chairman of the board of WASA is Mr. Roshan Babwa, who is in the sphere of law and human resource and industrial relations.
Tomorrow. Next week.
Do you expect any legal action to follow in terms of if anyone is to be demoted or if anyone loses their job because of this?
I would not want to speculate at this point in time. I think those wouldn't be matters for the board to treat with. There will be a HR person appointed on the board who deals with HR matters in terms of the different areas of board members. So I wouldn't want to speculate until those matters arise, if they do arise.
Can we say one more question? Okay?
One more question.
Or none?
With regard, one more question with regard to the virtual courts being held in police stations now. From what I recall and from what I understand, the whole policy behind the virtual courts was to be a workaround for the infrastructural deficit that there was in the physical courts. All right. Now, as far as this is now being looked at and reviewed, of course, yes, of course. Yeah, as this is now being reviewed, how would that virtual court element now work for?
Well, we are not sure. Right? I think it originated during the COVID period, for obvious reasons. But we intend to meet with the Judiciary, as the Honourable Prime Minister said, and that's one of the issues that we have to address. Question of virtual court infrastructure, what is the best and most efficient way of dealing with it? Kind of early to say at this stage, but certainly within short order we'll get our hands around it.
In fact, Minister, you said there were actually courts that are now empty. Would you want to share?
Yeah.
There are a number of areas that is empty. Courts, that is, looking at Arima, Chagonas. We have that area down in Port of Spain, because I don't know if anybody is seeing any construction work taking place on it, as you indicated. You know, these are areas that was built for a particular purpose, which is to really house a court, to have cells and everything. And when you come to this station at this time, you just kind of cramp for space already. And there's a number of units at these stations, even including persons who are coming there for a particular purpose, and they are not able to achieve their purpose because of what is taking place now. There's no area to really interview persons. I understand colleagues, police interviewing persons in vehicles, heavily tinted vehicles and all of that. So that is where it reached today.
Okay, can I just say thank you all very much. And I take this opportunity to wish you all happy Indian Arrival Day. Have a great day tomorrow. Thank you all. Goodbye.